We're going to be talking about ECCE and listening and reading. I'm Fernando Florking. I'm the Director of Marketing, Communications, and Stakeholder Relations at Michigan Language Assessment. And I have two colleagues with me. Luke, Emily, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Hey, everybody. My name is Luke Sliz, and I'm the Assessment Manager here at Michigan Language Assessment. I'm very happy to be with you here today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Clifford. I'm the Academic Support Manager at Michigan Language Assessment. And yep, as they've already said, very happy to be talking to you today. Thanks for joining us.
Great. So you can tell us where you're joining us from through the chat. We'd like to know a little more about you. And as I said, we're going to be focusing on the ECCE listening and reading sections. We're going to give you a few tips on how to prepare for these two sections, how to improve your listening and reading comprehension skills. And well, if we have a little time, we might be able to answer questions if you have any at this point, but we're going to be, we're not telling you what to do. We're going to give you a few tips. There are many ways to learn English. Your teachers know a lot about how they're helping you to practice for the ECCE and how to better succeed with the different sections of the test, which is an important accomplishment in your English learning journey. Thank you for answering the questions in the registration for this webinar. We'll share some of your responses here. Well, as I said, we'll talk a little about some practical suggestions about how to improve your listening and reading skills and how to help you with the specific sections of a couple of sections in the listening and reading parts of a ECCE. We will have a couple of polls, kind of a survey questions throughout the session, so you will see them when we open them. And there's another Q&A button if you want to ask a few questions. We'll see if we can have time to answer them by the end of a webinar. So this is a little information about the people who register for the webinar. So a lot of you have been studying English for quite some time. Some like 63% have been studying English from 4 to 6 years, and 26% more from 7 to 10 years. So great to know that you're improving your English and you're dedicating special time to work on this very important language that will help you with many things. And it seems that many of you have been preparing for the ECCE between 4 to 12 months, the great majority of you. So it's going to take some time. Obviously, it's something like a skill that you need to keep developing. And as you're doing that, you're improving all your communication skills in English. The great majority of people who register for the webinar were interested in taking the ECCE this May. So best of luck. We'll start with a few things on listening and reading. So you, Luke.
All right, thank you very much, Fernando. So I will be starting off today by telling you some things to consider of how you can prepare yourselves, to prepare for the listening section of the ECCE exam. So this test in general and this section is aimed at test takers who are at the B2 or a high intermediate level of English proficiency, as that relates to your ability to comprehend global, local, and inferential information when listening to English. So according to the Common European Framework of Reference, the language proficiency scale, when listening to English, B2 test takers and people in general can understand passages related to concrete and abstract topics. They can comprehend information in a variety of domains while identifying the attitudes and opinions in what they're listening to. And they can also identify the reasons and supporting arguments and ideas, or how the main ideas and all those details connect in what they're listening to when they're listening to that information in English. So these are the types of skills that you want to make sure that you're able to do and that you practice and able to prepare for this exam. So as you probably know, all the questions in the listening section are multiple choice on this exam. So when you're actually taking the test, some things you can do to kind of better prepare yourself to answer the questions are to look at the questions or look at the pictures ahead of time before you're listening, so you can kind of think about what vocabulary might I hear, what is this passage or conversation going to be about, and you can kind of mentally prepare yourself to listen for those specific things. So we'll continue on here with some tips from Emily on how you can actually practice doing those things before the exam.
Thank you, Luke. From the survey responses at the registration, we found out a lot of you are already doing a lot of things to practice your listening and reading skills outside of the classroom, but we wanted to talk about some specific things that can really help you prepare for the ECCE. The first thing is improving your vocabulary. It's really important to do as much as you can to expand your vocabulary, learn new words, as this will help you with listening and with reading and with all of the 4 skills. You should be aiming for 5 to 7 new words in English a day. Keep a notebook and keep using those words as much as possible to help you learn them. The other probably most important thing for improving your listening comprehension is to listen with a purpose. So it's great to listen to as much English as possible, but the most effective thing you can do is give yourself a task to complete while you're listening, or set yourself a goal for each time that you practice. So this will help you really actively practice your listening skills. We'll go through some ideas of things you can do for that. But first, it's a good idea to listen to different types of audio. Many of you, I'm sure, already listen to podcasts. You can use TED Talks or listen to NPR, National Public Radio, to get a range of different types of audio on lots of different topics. You can also watch English language videos. Again, I'm sure a lot of you do this already. Videos are helpful for listening. You don't just have to listen to audio tracks. Videos are also a great resource. And a lot of videos will come with a transcript, which is something very helpful to use, especially when you're starting out. Read the transcript along with the audio so you can follow along with it, or use that transcript for different activities, which we can go through in a bit. Try to listen more than once so that you can do lots of different activities with one listening track. It's better to practice regularly, shorter focus sessions rather than, trying to practice for an hour a week in one go. Give yourselves 15 minutes a day, listen to something new and do an activity while you listen. Most importantly, keep it interesting. You already listen to lots of things, I'm sure, in your own languages. Find English versions of your favorite listening activities. Find English version songs, English version videos, or turn on English subtitles. So the more you enjoy your practice, the more likely you are to do the practice. So I'll pass back to Luke.
We have a poll question. So following on some of the suggestions that Emily had, how many of you used any of those strategies already? Have you practiced any of these? You can click on the responses here on this poll, and we can see how many of you are already working with some of those strategies in your listening comprehension. Emily was describing a variety of different activities you can do to improve your listening comprehension in general. It's not only for the exam. So you will need to, that's why she was encouraging you to play the listening, whatever videos or things that you podcasts, YouTube videos, or things that you can play them many times so that you can focus on different things each time you're listening to them, and you can improve your vocabulary, your attention to details, or something that you missed. The transcripts can help you, like if you can find a written version of what they're saying. Subtitles can help you as well to pay attention to some things that you missed just when you were listening, but if you read them at the same time. So none of that will happen during the day of the test. You won't be able to ask for the transcript or the subtitles or anything that, but it will help you improve your listening comprehension overall. So let's finish the poll and see your results so far. So it's good to know that you're watching a lot of videos, you use subtitles to understand those details, practicing outside of the class, a variety of listening types. Yes, listening with a purpose, expanding vocabulary. So it seems that all of you are aware of some of these strategies and you're already implementing them. Great. So let's go on with the ECCE part 1.
All right, so we're going to look at some examples from part 1 of the listening section, but just to give you all a refresher, this section consists of short conversations that are followed by one question that needs to be answered after each one. Those conversations take place in a variety of contexts, and they involve a variety of speakers from different ages and backgrounds that all have different relationships to each other. So these conversations could take place in schools, businesses, many other public places, students, managers, employees, people with different types of connections to each other are all featured in them. There's no written text. All the answers are pictures. So this is a little bit less demanding for test takers, and there's very little interference from any reading abilities because you don't have to read anything to answer these questions. So you'll be seeing questions that test your understanding of global information, explicitly stated details, and implicit information, or information that is not stated directly and explicitly, but is instead kind of between the lines. So you have to infer what the answer might be to those. So to prepare for this task, you want to do those activities that Emily shared with you. They'll help you practice to listen for the main ideas of information, for specific details that are explicitly stated, to have a detailed understanding of that information, and also to listen for the implications or what is being said between the lines. So the listening test part 1 instructions are that you will hear 25 short conversations, and after each conversation, you'll hear one question about it, and you'll have to answer. You will hear each conversation and question only once, and then you will see answer choices shown as pictures, which you will choose the answer for in your answer sheet. And there's only 3 options to choose from. It's only A, B, or C. So we can go ahead and look at some examples then. We're going to listen together and then choose the answer together.
Oh no, I forgot the movie tickets. They must be on my desk at work still.
The show's going to start in 20 minutes. Can you go there and get back in time?
Well, I'll do my best. Taxi!
Okay, I'll just wait at the entrance for you. Hurry!
What will she probably do next?
All right, so if you think you know the answer, you can go ahead and put it in the chat, A, B, or C. This is an example of a question where the answer is not explicitly stated. You kind of have to guess what is happening next based on the information that you're hearing. And if you're listening closely, you would have heard the speaker say taxi, implying that the next thing she's going to do is call a taxi. So then she can go to work, get her movie ticket, and then go to the movies. So the next thing that would happen, it would actually be C, the taxi picture.
Well, there was a question about what if they miss important information in the short conversations. So it's important that you pay attention to the pictures while you're listening. In this case, you don't see the questions before, but you see the pictures, so you might anticipate what they are asking about in some way. So when you hear something related to the 3 situations you have there, the contexts that are presented in each picture, and you hear something related to that, you can identify, well, they're talking about this, but depending on the question you will hear at the end, you will have to choose the right one.
Yep, that's definitely great advice. So if you look at these pictures and if you think about what vocabulary might be needed to describe them before you're listening or as you listen, that could really help you to listen for that specific vocabulary as it appears. So let's try to do that here with this question. We're going to be listening to a conversation about food, it looks like.
Let's welcome our new student, Michelle, to our cooking class. Can you tell us about your cooking experience?
Well, I used to make desserts for years, but now I've been experimenting with soups.
Well, today in class, we're going to make a delicious roasted chicken, so it'll be new for you.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, so if you looked at the pictures ahead of time, you might have noticed there's a piece of cake, soup, and what could either be a chicken or a turkey. So if you thought about that, you might be listening for those words as they appear. And they do specifically talk about chickens and how that is what they will be cooking today. So in this case, the correct answer would be C, the roasted chicken picture. Now let's listen to the final example here.
So, Matthew, please tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I used to work at a movie theater selling snacks and tickets, and now I'm working at a grocery store in the fruits and vegetables section.
Great. And do you have any experience selling clothing or shoes?
Not yet, but I'm very excited about this opportunity.
Where did he work first?
All right, so here's another example where you kind of have to follow along to the information. Some different things happened in a specific order. It's an explicitly stated question where the answer is said directly in the passage. And I see many people have chosen the correct answer already. C, the movie theater, is where they worked first. So if you looked at these pictures ahead of time, you might be thinking of vocabulary related to movie theaters, related to clothing, related to food or fruit, and that might help you to choose the answer as you hear it.
And on the test, you will be able to see the pictures. In this case, it's not working for some reason with the audio, but obviously when you're listening, you're looking at the pictures directly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So let's move on to part 2 then. This part is a little more complicated. These are longer talks that are followed by 5 questions. So it's one person, it's not a conversation, one person delivering a longer speech. They're live talks or things that you might hear in real life in real time. So if you're a student listening to a teacher, or if you're working at a company and listening to your manager make an announcement, for example, those are some things you might hear in these passages. Again, we're testing global information, explicitly stated details, and that implicit information. And you would prepare for this task in much the same way as you would for the other task, practicing listening for the gist, specific info, detailed understanding and implications, but maybe in longer listening passages, longer videos, as opposed to shorter conversations like you would for the first one. So the instructions here, in this part, you will hear 4 short talks. After each talk, you will hear 5 questions about it. Before each talk begins, you'll have time to preview the questions that are printed in the test booklet. You hear each talk twice, and then you will hear the questions once. If you want to, you may take notes in your booklets as you listen. So I would definitely encourage you to take notes as you listen today, because you can do that when you take the test. And then you hear each talk twice, and there are 4 different options to choose from for the answers in this case. So we're going to listen to one of these examples today. These are the questions you're going to be listening for, and we'll look at them individually after you listen to the entire talk from the speaker.
Hold on, let's go over the questions first so that they can see them. So the first question, what is the main attraction of the new Marine Life Center? What does the speaker suggest about the current construction project? What does the speaker say about the African animals section? Why is the zoo offering so many special deals this summer? And what does the speaker mean when she says, and you will have to hear something then, so we'll play that later.
Look at the questions. Listen to a news story on the radio.
Looking for something fun to do with your family and friends this summer? The Capitol Zoo is always a popular destination for locals and visitors alike. But heads up, the zoo is undergoing a major construction project that will affect several things about your visit if you're headed there. Construction is underway for a new Marine Life Center, which will be massive. It's scheduled to open in the spring of next year. The main feature of the new center will be a seal arena with daily shows featuring more than a dozen seals. The Marine Life Center will also have a special tropical fish exhibit. So, lots of exciting updates coming for our zoo, but in the meantime, zoo guests will have to put up with some changes during their visits. The African animals section has been reduced to half its normal size, so unfortunately, the giraffes, hippos, and elephants are not on exhibit currently. Our sister zoo in California is hosting those animals until construction is complete. Also, parking will be a bit more challenging when you go. 2 of the 5 lots are currently unavailable for use. That being said, the zoo administration is offering a lot of special deals for visitors this summer, including special discount days, a free shuttle from remote parking lots, and reduced prices on family memberships. You can read all about them at the zoo's website, www.capitalzoo.org.
Okay, now we'll go ahead and we'll listen to the questions and answer them individually. Fernando, if you want to play the first one.
Yeah, if it's just a question, what is the main
right.
attraction of the New Marine Life Center?
Sure. So this is something, if you're listening, you would have heard the answer pretty early on in the passage. The speaker explicitly says that the new exhibit will be the seal exhibit. So I see someone's already chosen the correct answer in the chat. It is A in this case. The next question, what does the speaker say about the African animals section? Again, if you were listening and you know the answer, feel free to put it in the chat. The speaker specifically says that the exhibit is reduced to half its normal size, excuse me. So C in this case is the answer. And then we have an example where we do have to listen again, so we'll listen to this question here.
So the options are, it will be very popular, very expensive, very practical, very big. So let's see.
Listen to a part of the talk again, then answer the question.
Construction is underway for a new marine life center, which will be massive.
What does the speaker mean when she says,
which will be massive?
So which will be massive is what we're testing here. Do you understand what that phrase means? If you're familiar with that vocabulary, you might know that massive is a synonym for big, and many people in the chat have chosen D as the correct answer, which is correct in this case. So very nice work, everybody.
Good job. That was hard without even looking at the questions at the same time. Good job.
Just to finish up about the listening, in the interest of time, I won't talk too much about these, but here are some suggested activities you can do on your own outside of the classroom to practice some of these skills that Luke just took you through. First one is predicting the content, and then you can tick off your predictions as you listen to see how correct you were. As I mentioned earlier, finding a transcript, the written text of the listening, and read along with that. Make that more challenging by deleting words from the transcript or having someone else delete words. Then you can listen and fill in the blanks, so listening for specific details. And lastly, a lot of you mentioned you like listening to music and English language songs. Listen to those English language songs, write down what you think the song is about, support your ideas with evidence from the lyrics. Then go online to online communities and compare your ideas with others, or even find out what the artist says their song is about themselves. Can be a really fun, interesting way to practice listening comprehension.
Okay, now we'll move on to the reading section of the exam. So some things to just generally consider when you're preparing for the reading section. Again, according to the Common European Framework of Reference for Language Proficiency, people who can read at the B2 level in English can do some of these things. So you want to think about, are you able to do these things? And if not, what could you do to prepare yourself to be able to do them? So Emily will give you some tips to do that in a little bit. But at the B2 level, when reading, test takers and just English users in general can understand the main ideas and details from a variety of texts. So different genres, emails, magazine articles, different types of text. They can understand that information. They can read passages with different purposes written about a wide range of topics. So maybe to persuade people to think a certain way, to just inform them about some information. Different purposes will appear on the exam as well. You can understand a broad range of vocabulary, including informal language and more frequent idiomatic expressions. So because there are a lot of different genres that appear on the ECCE reading exam, you'll see some more formal language, some informal language. There's a wide range of things you can learn in advance. And then, as you'll see in part 2 of the reading section, you will want to be able to synthesize and report information from a number of sources to be able to answer the questions on the exam. So again, these are multiple choice questions and items that you'll be seeing on the test. You will be able to look at the questions before you read the exam, so you can kind of see what you can expect, and you can give yourself a purpose when you're reading to look for specific things. But you also want to focus on understanding the main idea of what you're reading, so you can kind of get a better idea of how the details connect to that main idea and how all the information is structured and connected, so you can understand what the writer is trying to communicate when they're writing. And then, of course, as a general reminder, you always want to answer all of the questions on the exam. There's no penalty for guessing, so you should always answer all of the questions, even if you're not quite sure.
So some general tips for improving your reading comprehension. Again, as with listening, improving your vocabulary is going to really, really help your reading comprehension, particularly learning synonyms. We just saw that example in the listening, the synonym for big using massive. The more you can improve your vocabulary, the more success you're going to have with reading and listening and all of the skills. And again, as with listening, reading with a purpose, making sure you're not just passively reading, but you're actually giving yourself a task, something to complete while you're reading, and hopefully reading authentic or real life materials. So English language websites or news articles, non-fiction books, advertisements. These are all really useful practice materials that you can find yourself and use in your English practice. Again, try to read lots of different types of texts. So you might be reading some argumentative speeches or some persuasive advertisements or fiction. These all use language in different ways, and it's important that you give yourselves a big variety of things to listen to read to help you get used to these different types of texts. Always keep it interesting. Read about topics you're interested in at first, and before you start branching out. The more you're interested in what you're reading, the more likely you are to do it. Lots of different follow-on activities. Try writing about what you've read, but try to give yourself a variety to keep your practice interesting. And again, make sure you're practicing every day actively. 15 to 20 minutes a day of really good quality practice will really make a difference.
We have another poll. Let's see. Are you already practicing some of these skills? I know there was a comment before that you couldn't select all of them. It says just selecting one of these. So which one is the one that you're most familiar with, or the activities that you do on your own? Since most of you are reading a variety of different types of texts. And some of the reading passages you will have in the ECCE will reflect that variety of different sources and types of reading. So it's good to be exposed to different things and trying to understand when you're reading something on your own. So what is the main idea? What are they trying to say? Who are they writing to? Or things that will help you be better prepared when you're taking the test. So let's finish here and share the results. And you can see the majority are using a variety of reading about a variety of text types, working on vocabulary. That vocabulary is a critical skill to help you with your reading comprehension. So the more you work on vocabulary, the more you will be improving your reading as well. Reading authentic materials and scheduling some time to read. That's great. So let's move on to reading ECCE reading sections.
All right, so first we'll be looking at part 1 of the reading section. So this consists on the test of 2 reading passages that are followed by 6 questions each. Again, in these passages, very similar to listening, you'll see a variety of concrete and abstract topics from a variety of domains that will probably be familiar to most test takers and most of you. So the skills tested, again, they include things that fall under global, local, and inferential. So you have to understand the entire passage to answer some questions. You have to understand specific sentences to answer some questions about specific details. And for inferential, you'll have to kind of read between the lines. The answer is not explicitly stated, but you have to kind of guess at what the writer is trying to say. So you can prepare for this task by practicing reading for main ideas, for specific information, to understand at a very high level of detail of what the writer is trying to say, and reading for implications as well. So let's look at some examples here. First, we're going to look at this one that is about a new sport, and I'll read it before we look at some at the actual items themselves. So this passage is about a new sport. A trampoline, a flexible platform on which one jumps up and down, has long been a favorite among children. However, the trampoline is now being used in a new way as part of an extreme sport that may someday be practiced competitively. Wall trampoline, developed in the world of the circus, requires both courage and skill. It involves the athletes, called bouncers, throwing themselves off a wall onto a trampoline almost 5 meters below. They then bounce off the trampoline and back to the top of the wall. As they're flying through the air, they perform jumps, loops, and other tricks in much the same way as freestyle skiers and skateboarders. According to the developers of wall trampoline, it is more impressive than traditional trampoline because the participants do not need to do many small bounces in order to gain the height needed to perform tricks. The bouncers start from a high place so they can fly higher from the first jump. However, the presence of the wall can make it dangerous. The bouncers always have to be very aware of where they are in relation to the wall to avoid hitting it by accident. Inventing a new extreme sport is not completely straightforward. The rules, or lack of them, must be considered. Fans of wall trampoline enjoy the fact that it is a freestyle activity, but if bouncers want to compete against each other, a formal method to judge their moves is needed. So I see some people are already choosing answers in the chat. Feel free to go ahead and do that. The first question here is, what is the main purpose of the passage? So this is a type of question where you'll have to understand the entire passage to be able to answer it, pull information from multiple paragraphs to be able to do that. In this case, D is the correct answer to describe a sport which few people know. If you look at the first paragraph, it says that trampoline is now being used in a new way. It's a extreme sport. And then at the very last paragraph, it says that inventing a new extreme sport is not completely straightforward. Inventing implies that this is new as well, so you can kind of infer that this is not something that a lot of people may be familiar with. So in this case, D is going to be our answer.
Oh, too fast.
No problem. So this is the second question here. I'll explain why this is correct. So what do some developers of wall trampoline think about traditional trampoline? The answer to this one is found in the third paragraph, which you can see in the box on the left side of the screen. Let's see here. In the middle, it says that the bouncers start from a high place so they can fly higher from the first jump. However, the presence of the wall can make it dangerous. The bouncers always have to be aware of where they are in relation to the wall to avoid hitting it by accident. You can kind of see that there's a little bit of danger here. The people are performing tricks by jumping very high right away, so they don't have to build up to anything. So if you think about that and compare it to traditional trampolines, where you do have to bounce around a little bit before you can jump high enough to do tricks, you can tell that it might be a little less exciting than this new sport. All right, and let's look at this next question. According to the passage, what do those performing wall trampoline need to be careful about? You can find the answer in the text in the third paragraph again. If you think you've spotted it, feel free to throw it into the chat. It says in the box that the bouncers start from a high place so they can fly higher from the first jump. However, the presence of the wall can make it dangerous. So the wall is what makes it dangerous. And if you look at the options, you can see that letter B, the location of the wall, is very similar to what is said in the passage. So that is our answer there. And then finally, this is a type of question that you'll see in the reading section as well, when it's asking you about a specific word and what it is referring to in the passage. So here in the last sentence of the passage, what does there refer to? And if you read that last sentence, you can see that it says a formal method to judge their moves is needed. There is referring to athletes or the bouncers that are being mentioned throughout the passage itself. All right, so great work on that, everybody. A lot of people choosing the correct answers there. Let's look at part 2 of the reading section, which can be a little more difficult. Instead of just reading one passage here, you have to read 4 passages, and they all tie together in some way. They'll be connected by a common theme, but they will become more difficult as you advance from section A to section D. Again, these passages can feature a variety of concrete and abstract topics from a variety of different domains, but they should be things that most test takers are familiar with. So you'll see passages that are about education, about the workplace, about common problems that are coming up in the modern society. And then you'll have to read all 4 of the sections to be able to answer all of the questions that relate to these. So again, the skills that are being tested are global, local, and inferential skills. So you'll want to do the same types of activities to prepare for this section as you would for part 1, but you might want to focus on some more complicated passages, some longer reading passages that require more comprehension and more thought for certain test takers. So we'll go ahead and look at some examples here. We're going to be looking at some passages that have to do with physical activity and exercise. So the first section, section A, I'll read it so we can look for the answer to who is this announcement written for. So play ball with Girard Manufacturing Incorporated. If you'd like the chance to have fun with your coworkers while staying fit, look no further than the office baseball team. If you want to participate in our company baseball team, join us for tryouts, which will take place at Field Park this Thursday, the 7th at 6 p.m. Players with all levels of experience or none at all are welcome. Games will be held on Saturdays throughout the season with optional practice sessions each Thursday after work. So we have coworkers, baseball players, both mentioned in this passage. But if you look at the details, the title is To Play Ball with Girard Manufacturing, which is the name of a company. The very first sentence says, if you, the reader, would like a chance to have fun with your coworkers, you can tell that this is being written for someone who works with other people at a company. In this case, employees at Girard Manufacturing, which would be D. So that would be the correct answer in this case. Let's look at section D. So there's usually 4 sections for each of these passages. So we're going to skip over B and move on to C in this case. The question we're trying to answer here is, what opinion does the author express at the end of the passage? I'm just going to read that final paragraph in the interest of time. But this passage is about walking versus running and what are the benefits to each of those activities. So in the final paragraph, it says, walking has its strong points too. One study showed that walking lowered the risk of heart disease even more than running. Of course, the best choice of all is simply exercising regardless of your method. So this writer was writing about running versus walking, what is best for you, what are the benefits of each. And we can see that in that very final choice, the very final paragraph, they're saying that walking has many benefits, but it may not be the best choice for everybody. It depends on your specific situation. So let's see what the answer is in this case. It is getting any type of exercise is what matters most. So in that very final sentence, the writer says, of course, the best choice of all is simply exercising regardless of your method. So doing anything is better than doing nothing at all. And then we'll move on to section D here, so we can get an example of looking at different people's opinions in a passage. So I'll read this passage so we can kind of get an idea of what it is about. So we're looking for the answer to the question, what does the author say people disagree about? So the title here is Maximum Effort or Maximum Benefits. The importance of regular exercise is stressed by doctors, scientists, and the media. The typical message is that we aren't exercising enough, and many of us aren't. But is there such a thing as too much exercise? Can exercise ever be harmful? As it turns out, the saying all things in moderation does apply to exercise. Several studies have shown that athletes who regularly compete at high levels, like marathon runners or long-distance bikers, are more at risk for certain health problems, particularly heart issues, and may not live as long as people who exercise at less vigorous levels. So here we'll find the answer to the question at the start of this next paragraph. There is no consensus on exactly how much is too much. Most scientists agree that it depends on the person. So there's no consensus on exactly how much exercise is too much is what they're referring to here. So what does the author say people agree about? If you want to show the answer, Fernando, I think many people have already identified it. It is B, at what point exercise becomes harmful? People are disagreeing at how much is actually too much, and it may be different depending on the person. So as you might already know, in part 2 of the reading section, there are always questions like this one that require you to read multiple sections like A and B here, and to be able to understand both of them before you can answer the question. So this is a good example of that. The question is asking, what do sections A and B have in common? So they might mention the same location, they might reach a similar conclusion, they may be directed at a similar type of audience, or they may even be written by the same person. So we already read section A, which was directed at the employees at a specific company. And if you read through section B, you can probably guess what the answer is just from the first paragraph. So I will read that first paragraph here. Many with office jobs struggle to find the time and opportunity for regular exercise. But if you spend most of your day in a chair, it's even more important to maintain a healthy level of activity. Here are a few easy ways to boost your fitness. And then the writer gives us 3 examples of things you can do to boost your movement and your physical activity when you are at work. You can park far away from the door. In the second bullet point, you can take the stairs. And in the third bullet point, you can stand up for at least a few minutes every hour. So you can see here, the same location is not mentioned. A is for a specific set of people, but B is for many different people in many different places. They're not really about the same things because A is getting people to try out for a team, while B is about giving advice. But section answer C, they are directed at a similar audience. It's correct here. A is for specific employees at one company. B is for employees at many companies. So they're written for a specific, similar type of people.
So you have to look a little, the answer is not explicitly mentioned in both, but you have to make connections between the 2 passages and infer who this is written for, looking at those clues that Luke was pointing out.
Exactly.
We're almost out of time, but we still have time for a few more. And if everybody can stay a few more minutes, we'll take a few more minutes to finish.
Sure, so we'll just go through this one quickly. Another good example of a question that requires you to read multiple sections to understand. In this case, the question is, which sections refer to outside research? So you would, in this case, want to look at the passages again, look for the ones that mention studies or research done by other people. And many people are already choosing answer B, which in this case is the answer. In section C in the box, you can see that the writer talks about a study that has been done. And in section D in the orange box, you can also see that other studies that they mention that they then explain in detail. So A and B do not mention research at all, but C and D do. So that is your answer here.
Emily?
Okay, so thank you, Luke. Some quick practice activities you can do to improve your skills and prepare for these types of questions. Predicting the content, similar with the listening. Look at the title, look at any images, look at headings, and try to guess what you think the text will be about, and then you can tick off as you read. Improving your vocabulary is key. So you can try guessing the meaning of words based on clues in the sentence or around that word, then look them up and see if you were correct. Reading aloud can really help. Even if you're alone, there's no one there to listen. Just reading the text aloud to yourself can be very helpful in helping you to understand it. Take it slowly, break the text into smaller chunks, and summarize each of those chunks as you read, which can help you get an idea of the main idea of the passage. Try writing a 1-sentence summary of what you've read. Make it even harder for yourself and turn that into a 5-word sentence. That can be a really good exercise, again, for understanding the main idea and really limiting your words. And finally, write down 5 questions you would like to ask the author, then have a go at answering them based on what you've read.
Great, thank you. And just to close, these are some of one of the questions that you answered, some of the responses based on all the practice that you do outside of a classroom. We were really glad to hear you're doing so much outside of what you do in your regular classes and what teachers ask you to complete for homework. So great job to take the initiative to keep practicing your English while you're doing many more things that are a lot of fun in your life. So lots of watching movies and videos. Emily was talking about that. It was really good to see that you're talking to other people, to friends, relatives, other people that you know or that you don't know sometimes when you're traveling, so that you can practice interacting, talking, speaking, and like that oral communication, understanding others. Listening to music is important. Reading outside, it was good to see that almost 20% of our responses including some type of reading on your own. Traveling, chatting online, studying, even video games helped you to interact with others in English. So that was fun. Good to know that you're doing a lot. There were some of the reasons why you're taking ECCE, but what I really enjoyed was reading some of the connections that you made and how ECCE is helping you to accomplish many other things, like getting a dream job and have a better future and better work skills, giving me the courage to continue a higher education in English, getting scholarships, traveling, but also becoming more confident in English and feeling proud of what you've done, making your parents proud, show them that I really know English, to believe more in yourself, to have the ability to communicate English with foreign people and the opportunity to find a job. So these are great insights about how you interpret what ECCE is doing for you. It's not just taking an exam or improving skills. It's helping you with a lot of very important things that you're planning for the rest of your life that will have an impact on your future, your own academic and professional life. So it was very encouraging to see how focused you are. So do keep exploring those ideas and how does ECCE connect with you? How is it helping you reach your own goals? We basically explored how to improve listening and reading skills today, exploring what you can do by yourself, but also how to become more familiar with the test content, the format of the test, and how ECCE can help you accomplish your goals. From now on, I hope you can continue thinking about those personal goals, how the ECCE can contribute to help to those important milestones in your life, and think about what you will be able to do from now on to keep developing those skills and to accomplish those goals. So thinking about the ECCE as one of those tools and one of those steps in order to reach more important goals and stages of your life is a great way to finish with this. So I encourage you to keep exploring that, developing your English skills, communicating with your teachers, your kind of family, friends, relatives, others that are helping you to practice English and getting ready for your future. So thank you very much for sharing this morning or afternoon with us. I had only seen one question that I think, you can easily answer. There was a question about the order of the questions in reading part 1, if they are kind of in order based on the information that is presented on the passage. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, as you might have noticed, the questions do appear in the order that they appear in the passages themselves. So it's not meant to be a trick. It does appear in that order, as you said.
Great, that's easier. Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Great to have you with us. Enjoy the rest of the day, and until the next time, all the best. Thank you.